Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. I start off the final round with Mr. Govind Dayasri, Senior Attorney at Law. Mr. Dayasri, what is happening now? It seems that things are not looking that great for the present regime. The coalition government's agreement to work together expires in August. Now that has been extended until December. It seems to me that the president is trying to buy some time because the budget is coming into play in November. He knows that if the budget is defeated, the government has to resign. So it seems like he's trying to buy some time with all this. What is your thinking?
Well, I think you put it very mildly. I think the situation is very grave, and from the people's point of view, I think we got to think about the country first. It's not UNP or SLFP or any political party. We got to think about the country and put the country right. Now, how can we do that when we have both sets of politicians in this kind, completely smeared with corruption? So it's a very, very difficult future that we have. But I think the times come, as Chandra says, I'm not in for people's agitation, but I think the political parties themselves must realize, the UNP first, since they are in office, to remove the present Prime Minister, because after 2 years, if the performance is so dismal, he has to hold office for 2.5 years. After 4.5 years, how many of these UNP parliamentarians will get returned if this is the performance? Then if Ranil Wickremesinghe drops out and the UNP appoints a new, young, dynamic leader, I don't know whether they are or whether it's possible, hypothetically if that is so, then a lot of pressure will develop in the SLFP ranks. They will have an old man there. He may be under pressure himself. So that is the only way I see for this country to have a new kind of leadership that believes and implements good governance. It's useless talking of good governance. If this kind of bond scam can take place, I mean, if not for people like Faraz and the Financial Times, this would have never surfaced. And if you didn't give publicity, there would have been no question of this reaching these proportions. So I think there's very little public or these organizations can do. It is the media, it is a few politicians who are bold enough to speak. Now I must say there are politicians like that in the UNP, young people, who are still quite clean. So are they in the SLFP.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Dayasri. I now move my attention to Mr. Chandra Jayaratne, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Jayaratne, the point right now is that there needs to be structures in place. We don't want to see a repetition of this again. But the point right now is, what's going to happen to what was experienced over the last 2.5 years? There was so much of corruption. Do you think at least now the government has to step in and ensure that those who were corrupt are brought before the law, and then the systems and procedures should be in place? What are your thoughts on this? Your time starts now.
I think that is an obvious conclusion, but I think your group has the best chance. You are touring the country today, getting the views of the people. Do a poll, show how the people, you are getting the votes. I can see something's being cast. Don't wait for a major report. Why don't you give village by village, put the pressure, get the people to understand what is happening, what the people's voice, get it converted to those who are in government. And those who are thinking of coming into politics, let them learn that hereafter, I think your Gammad program has shown one set of people who have been left out in the sharing of public finance and the national resources. Bring out now through your second scheme, for which I give you the highest credit and commendation. Bring it out. I can't ask you more than ask you to publish weekly what you are getting, get some more views, get people to understand. Then once you have that, use that base of people that you have mobilized to be the attitude changers, those who hold to account our leaders, our executives, our professionals and even the media.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandra Jayaratna. I now move my attention to Dr. W. Wijewardena, a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Dr. Wijewardena, interestingly, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy speaking to the media said that no one is raising the issue with regard to the bond scam that has taken place in Sri Lanka. Now that's a very interesting remark, and no international investor seems to be concerned. Now that's what you got from the sentiments that he expressed. But I recollect at a Ceylon Chamber of Commerce event that you also participated along with Ravi Karunaika and President Maithripala Sirisena, when you said that there needs to be coherent, there needs to be, everyone has to work unitedly in the central bank with the line minister in question. Ravi Karunaika slammed you and said individuals don't have to work like that, and then for your statement, the President said no, there has to be a minister who works with the central bank and the line minister together. So given that fact, do you think there is still a need for that, for the line ministry and the central bank of Sri Lanka to work together in a situation like this? Because we see things not working out very well.
Shabir, first of all, the central bank should be properly placed under the Ministry of Finance, because it was a mistake done by the present government for listing it under the Ministry of Economic Affairs. As I have written in my articles in the Daily FT, all the relevant legislations related to central bank, they have mentioned the Minister of Finance by name, so you can't change it. So it was a kind of a central governor has to serve two masters, and one master for administration purposes, the other master for statutory purposes. So this was a mistake done by the government, and it has to be, it could have been even corrected when the Minister of Finance was changed and the new Minister of Finance was appointed. The President would have changed the put the central bank and all the other state banks under the Ministry of Finance. Second one is, even though Governor Kumaraswamy has said that the bond scam has not affected central banks, Sri Lanka's credibility in the eyes of the foreign investors, which is wrong, because many investors who had come to Sri Lanka, they had seen me, and also some of the embassies, also the leading embassies, they have seen me in order to find out what has actually happened in the bond scam. So these people are all interested in what is happening in the country. And
they are concerned.
They are concerned because their main concern is, why didn't the central bank take action immediately when it came to its light?
Thank you very much, Dr. W. Wijewardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Dr. Wijewardena, before I move to Mr. Tennakon, you released a book recently saying central banking. Do you think that you can give any message to the present governor of the central bank, because you have many years of experience? Do you think that he's doing his job right now?
He is. Actually, we have to again, Shamir, take into account the constraints within which he has to operate, because on one side there is the Prime Minister, to whom he has to report about the administration matters of the central bank. On the other side there is a Minister of Finance, where he has to take all the statutory functions of the central bank to the Minister of Finance. So given those constraints, the message has to the present central bank governor in my book has been that central bank has to function as an independent, impassionate, professional body, and not part of the political machinery in the country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wijewardena. Mr. Rusiripala Tennakon, you get to say the final words. Tell us, enlighten us, as a senior bank and a civil rights activist, do you think that the people of Sri Lanka are very, very dissatisfied the way in which things are moving? And if there comes an election this year, do you think the people would actually go to the polling booth and vote? Do you think that they have lost the confidence that they have placed in governments, in individuals, in politicians? The time starts now.
There is no doubt that the people, the large majority of them, have lost confidence in the government and the people whom they thought they will deliver what they expected. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But what they are going to do at next election depends on who comes forward and what they project as the future of this country. Therefore, it's too early for us to comment on that situation. But like what we saw in January 2015, just before the changeover, there is a possibility of polarizations, some kind of polarization to take place in this country, knowing very well what is happening in the country today. Because there is no standard in anything. The ministers have no standard to follow. So therefore there is no consistency that they should be bound with or bound to. These are all lapses. But I think with the next second term of the unity government, if things are corrected at this moment, like one of my colleagues who said here, there can be a change in the main party, where the Prime Minister steps down and gives the chance to another person to carry on for the next 2 years. Need not be a young one as that we claim to be. It can be an experienced person from the UNP. I mean, with clean hands to take over the reins and to carry it forward, because what we want is not someone else to just take the place, replace them. What we want is the country to go on.
No, when you say clean hands, when you say clean hands, it's very difficult to believe these individuals, Mr. Nukon, because you saw the former finance minister saying during the campaigns that we won't catch the small sprats, we'll catch the seer, like the Torah. In terms of the big fish, and then you have him being saddled with all the problems, and now he's under the gun. So you try to wonder who's clean.
Certainly I'm not trying to imagine people like that, but then there are people in the UNP which is the major party in the coalition government, whose names have not been so tainted. I mean, who also have the experience. Therefore, I mean, I don't want to name people. Just take, for example, the Speaker. He's a senior hand in the party, and we have not seen that his name being tainted with anything in the past, at least in the recent past. So therefore, they can.
I like the way you put across things.
No, they can discuss matters.
The past, and then you say not the recent past, and I'm trying to figure out. Is he corrupt or is he not, given the situation? But thank you very much, Mr. Yusupal, for your thoughts. Thank you very much, Mr. Govind Dayasri, for joining us this evening. Mr. Chandra Jayarathne, it's always a pleasure to have you on board. Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And thank you very much, Mr. Yusupal, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Charita. Thank you very much for us. Tomorrow on the show, who's your guest and what would you be discussing?
6 hours and 20 minutes. I'll be on Newsline, and my guests will be Mr. Azad Sali and Bandula Jayasekara.
For us, in 7 hours and 22 minutes, to be very precise, you got the numbers wrong when you said 40, 27, 29. I thought you get the numbers right at least this time.
1 hour for makeup. 1 hour for makeup.
But still, that's 7 hours and 22 minutes for us. Okay, so you have 6 hours of sleep and then wake up and looking forward for a show tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. I thought after looking at the submissions that have been made by Arjun Aloysius, Ravi Karunanayaka, Arjuna Mahendran during the last few weeks, I thought this would be the best quote to end the show tonight. It's not the lie that bothers me, it's the insult to my intelligence that I find offensive. Take care and good night.